This episode is brought to you by Sterling Soap Company. How often do you think about your soap? Well, if you answered, not much, maybe you should. You see, a lot of what passes for soap in stores is technically not soap, according to the FDA's definition. It's full of lab-created chemicals and detergents because, well, it's cheaper to make. Now, what if you could buy natural soap made from natural ingredients like tallow, palm oil, coconut oil, and scented with essential oils, and for just a little more than you'd pay for grocery store soap? Sterling Soap is 100% natural, and with a wide variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, and cologne, there's a product and a scent for just about everybody. Check them out for yourself at sterlingsoap.com. That's STIRLING soap.com.
This year at the NFL Draft, dreams will be realized and lives will be changed forever. While future stars take the stage, you can elevate your own game. The Sports History Network is giving away a $75 gift card to Sterling Soap Company, offering 100% natural, fan-approved, locker room-tested, stellar grooming products. Step into legendary status and enter now at sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways. That's sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways.
This is Basketball History 101 with Rick Loayza.
Welcome back to Award-winning Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network. I am your host, Rick Loayza, and this is the podcast where we bring to life some of the forgotten stories from basketball history. We are bringing old school basketball to a new school audience. And today we bring you the story of Len Bias. Now, this is the first time in 4 years that I've had to give a warning. The second half of our story might get challenging for young listeners as it involves drug use. So parents, please be advised. Now, Len Bias personified unrealized potential. He started at the University of Maryland from 1982 until 1986, and by the time he finished his time at Maryland, he was averaging 23 points per game and 7 rebounds per game. He was definitely going to be selected with one of the top picks in the 1986 NBA draft. He was 6'8" or 203 centimeters, and he was so fast and athletic that it almost defied description. The University of Maryland and the University of North Carolina both play in the same conference and play each other at least twice a year. After Michael Jordan left North Carolina, Len Bias became the new best player in the conference. And that is not a small thing because the conference they played in, the ACC, ran deep with talent. In fact, there were direct comparisons between Len Bias and Michael Jordan. Based strictly on the skills that they possessed in college, there were definitely some people who thought that Bias would be even better than Jordan in the NBA. And in the spring of 1986, that was not such a far-fetched idea, because when we talk about this story, we have to put ourselves in the spring and summer of 1986 in order to really understand how Len Bias was evaluated by NBA teams and the media. In order to see the potential that we are talking about, we have to go back to that time period. Bias was born in 1963 to James and Lanice Bias as one of 4 siblings. He was born in Maryland near Washington, D.C., and like most players with NBA potential, he dominated at Northwestern High School in Maryland, and that earned him scholarship offers to multiple universities. But he wanted to stay local, where his friends and family could easily see him play, and he attended the University of Maryland. And by that final season at Maryland, he was a consensus first-team All-American. He had as much hype surrounding his NBA potential as any player who came through the draft in the 1980s. And for this, I have to bring up Michael Jordan again. The two players not only played in the same conference, but had actually played against each other several times during their university days. A former Celtic talent scout, Ed Badger, referred to Len Bias as explosive and exciting. Bias could really leap into the air. He could create and make decisions in the air, which is one of the rarest gifts in basketball. He could score in a variety of ways and seemingly at will. In many ways, it sounds like I am describing Jordan. And that's not a bad place to start in describing Bias. Bias was taller and bigger than Michael Jordan, so let us go to the tail of the tape. Bias was 2 inches taller than Jordan and about 15 pounds heavier. He was bigger and more muscular, but with the same athletic ability and speed of Jordan. And this story almost requires us to play the what if game. Bias was predicted to be a multiple-time All-Star. He would make an enormous impact to whichever team that drafted him. The sky was the limit with Bias. That was virtually a consensus opinion. The only question was, which team would actually select Len Bias? The first pick of the draft was held by the Cleveland Cavaliers, the second pick was held by the Boston Celtics, and the third pick was held by the Golden State Warriors. And surely, he would not fall any lower than that. Now, this is a good place to take a break, and I'll be right back with the results of the 1986 NBA Draft.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings your sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique items with the retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row One catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row One Pictorium Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.
Hello, sports history fans. I'm Ross from the podcast Pigskin Tales. You're about to jump into another thrilling sports history moment, but first, let's dive into today's sponsor, just in time for the holiday season. Introducing Art of Words, the brainchild of word artist Dan Duffy from Philadelphia. Dan meticulously crafts stunning images by handwriting relevant words from some of the greatest sports moments in time. These unique, budget-friendly illustrations are the perfect gift, sparking cherished memories and capturing hearts. Choose from city skylines, sports, history, and musicians to find a piece for everyone. And here's the exciting part. For that sports fanatic in your life, gift them a piece of their favorite team or player's history. Art of Words tells a compelling story. Explore collegiate stadiums, each meticulously crafted with every football victory etched into words. Or venture into baseball stadiums, handwritten with every player from the team's illustrious history. My favorite on the site is Bryce Harper 2021 MVP year. Because I'm a big stats guy, I think that's one of the coolest things ever. Check it out. Don't wait. Order a print today for yourself and your loved one this holiday season. Transform your wall into a gallery of captivating art and surprise your family and friends with a print of their own. Use code SHN15 at artofwords.com for a 15% discount on your order in November and December. Visit Art of Words, where words magically transform into stunning art, evoking cherished memories and touching the hearts of those who you care about. Again, use the code SHN15 for 15% off at artofwords.com.
Welcome back to the show, and let us continue with the story on Len Bias and the unrealized potential that he possessed. Before the break, we left off with the approaching 1986 NBA Draft. It was not a given that Bias would go first. The Cavaliers were really interested in taking Brad Daugherty from the University of North Carolina. He was an extremely talented 7-footer, and back in the 1980s, it was really hard to pass up on a player with height and talent. Every NBA champion for the previous 30 years, except for the 1975 Warriors, had an All-Star and future Hall of Famer at the center position. That's how important that center position was back in the 80s and prior. So again, it was going to be really hard to pass up on Brad Daugherty, as he had all-star potential written all over him. And that feeling was confirmed when Daugherty made 5 all-star games during his career and then retired after just 8 seasons due to career-ending back injury. So as good as Bias was, the Cleveland Cavaliers used that first pick on Daugherty, and the Celtics were up next with the second pick. The Celtics had just won their 3rd championship of the 1980s, with Larry Bird leading the way. But the core group of Celtics players were not getting any younger. With Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Dennis Johnson, Bill Walton, and Danny Ainge, they were starting to show their age. Red Auerbach, the architect and general manager of the Celtics, knew that he had to select a transformative young player who could take the mantle of team leader when Larry Bird retired. Auerbach wanted a player who would come in without the pressure of having to be the team savior. He wanted somebody who could take a few years to develop until he was ready to accept the baton from Larry Bird and keep the Celtics in championship contention. The plan was a solid one. Bias was definitely that kind of player. He was predicted to be a star in the NBA, and everything about the way he played supported that. But the Celtics had just won the championship. Their record was far too good to have the second pick in the entire draft. Well, that brings us back to Auerbach, and that's the reason that he traded away Gerald Henderson and cash to the Seattle Supersonics in exchange for their pick that became the second pick in the 1986 draft. So, with that second pick of the NBA draft, the Boston Celtics selected Len Bias from the University of Maryland. And some of the last photos we have of Bias are of him sitting at the draft wearing his brand new Boston Celtics hat. The next day, Bias and his father flew to Boston for a signing ceremony where he would sign not only his Celtics contract in front of the media, but also sign several endorsement contracts, including a shoe deal with Reebok for $1.6 million. Reebok was already planning on creating a signature shoe for Bias the same way that Nike did for Michael Jordan. It was a day that most kids with NBA aspirations dream of. To put on that hat of your brand new team and to get a tour of the facilities, sign the contract, and take questions from the media, Bias got to live out his fantasy of becoming an NBA player with contract in hand. That very night of the signing ceremony, he flew back to Maryland and returned to the campus to celebrate with his Maryland teammates and friends. And according to police reports, Bias and his friends left the dormitory around 2:30 in the morning and returned after about an hour. And they spent the rest of the night snorting cocaine to celebrate Bias being selected by the Boston Celtics, where he would be teammates with 5 future Hall of Famers. It truly was the best possible basketball situation for him. Around 6:30 in the morning, while Bias was talking with his teammate Terry Long, he suddenly went into convulsions and collapsed right there in the dorm room. Within 2 minutes, his friends were on the phone with emergency services calling for an ambulance. When the paramedics arrived, Bias was no longer breathing. They administered CPR right there to get him breathing again, but their attempts had failed. They then rushed him to Leland Memorial Hospital, where the doctors did absolutely everything they could. They knew exactly who was on that table. That was the famous Len Bias, the star basketball player from the local university, and their task was to do everything they could to save his life. At 8:55 a.m., he was officially pronounced dead from a cocaine-induced cardiac arrhythmia. Everything about it happened so fast. The draft was held on a Tuesday. He had his signing ceremony on Wednesday, and by the wee hours of the morning on Thursday, he was gone. 4 days later, a service was held in the arena at the University of Maryland, where 11,000 people attended to pay their last respects. I remember that I was a kid when all of this happened. My dad told me about what had happened to Bias, and he seemed a bit upset about it. I mean, we were die-hard Lakers fans. The Celtics were the enemy as far as we were concerned, but this completely overshadowed a silly sports rivalry. What really got under my dad's skin was that this young man had the opportunity of a lifetime in the palm of his hand and threw it all away with one bad decision. This was absolutely preventable, and there was fallout from this tragedy. The University of Maryland athletic director and basketball coach Lefty Driesell resigned under pressure because of his mishandling of that situation. Further, everyone who was in that dorm room with Bias was charged with cocaine possession. A new federal law was enacted that increased the penalties for anyone who distributes illegal drugs that leads to a death. It is nicknamed the Len Bias Law. 4 years later, Bias's younger brother, Jay, was murdered in a street shooting, and this prompted their parents to start an organization where they speak and deliver anti-drug lectures. As for the Celtics, well, they lost an incredible player. What the Celtics did not know at the time was that Larry Bird had injured his back while digging a trench for a new sidewalk for his home in Indiana. His back would never be the same again. Bill Walton retired with his own injuries, and the rest of the team got another year older without a high-quality young guy on the team. This would be an understatement to say that Bias' story is a cautionary tale, but that's exactly what it is. This prompted not only the NBA, but other professional leagues to introduce drug testing for its players, with penalties including increasing suspensions and eventually a ban from the league. It also changed the way that teams do their scouting. In addition to bringing in draft prospects for a workout, NBA teams also talk to the player, their family, their friends, their former coaches, their girlfriend, pretty much anyone who has ever had a significant association with the player. They sometimes run psychological evaluations. In some cases, the teams will even hire a private detective to follow the player around to see what he does when he thinks nobody is watching. They will dig into his past for any potential arrests. The team will even find out if the player has ever received a speeding ticket. They will leave no stone unturned in trying to find out everything that they absolutely can about a particular player. There should be no surprises about a player once he has been selected. The Len Bias story fundamentally changed the way that teams go about evaluating potential draft picks. No team wants a repeat of what the Celtics experienced in 1986. But at the center of all this was a young man who had the brightest of futures and then tragically was not able to fulfill those dreams. I just wish I could have seen him play as a Celtic. As a lifelong basketball fan, I just want to see the best players perform at their peak and against each other. Would he have been a multiple-time All-Star like many predicted? Would he have made the Hall of Fame? Would he have been better than Jordan? With that, we will end our episode for today. Join us next time when we share another story from basketball history. That's next time on Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network, the headquarters of Sports Yesteryear. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com to find out more about this and other sports history podcasts. If you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcast. And check out our page on Facebook. It's called Basketball History 101 Podcast. And there you will find shorter historical posts as well as comments and discussion starters on today's game. I will also announce there when new episodes come out. I want to thank my producer and editor, Jacob Loayza. Join us each week as we continue to mine the history of basketball for more great stories from the past. Take care and see you soon.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, aka the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.